Check that out. You know what those are, right? Well, results have just been published from a recent study that was conducted at Imperial College in London on the use of psilocybin as a treatment for depression. So I'll stick a link down below in the description box to an article written on that study so you can read more on that if you want to. As you might already be aware, psilocybin is the active constituent in magic mushrooms, and the results of this study are pretty awesome. I mean, it's not really something that is news as such, you know, this is something that people have known about for a very long time, but the fact that this study even happened is really amazing, because here in the UK, magic mushrooms are classed as, well, a Class A drug, so they're ranked alongside drugs like cocaine and heroin for their apparent harmfulness. Despite being non-toxic and non-addictive, they are illegal to consume, grow, or even pick here in the UK. So anyway, 12 people took part in this study. Every single one of them had been clinically depressed for an average of about 18 years. And they'd all received conventional antidepressant treatment, drugs like SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and not one of the people in this study had received any measure of success, both short or long term, from taking these antidepressant drugs, yet every single participant in this study noticed a significant improvement in their mental state after just 1 week of using the psilocybin, and after about a 3-month duration, almost 50% of these participants were completely free of depression and they felt like they were totally healed. And this is after 18 years of clinical depression. Now obviously we can't really call this a cure as such, because mental illness is a very complex issue and it always requires the individual to face their own inner demons, which is never going to be the same from one person to the next. Long-term depression like this is never as simple as just taking one thing and it all just magically goes away, but as far as antidepressant drugs are concerned, this definitely beats the shit out of anything else that's currently available. Now I'm not exactly clear on how psychoactive the dose was, but the study does refer to the psilocybin that was used as a hallucinogenic drug. And what I think is really interesting here is that common SSRI drugs like Prozac and Zoloft, they have a very low remission rate and they have a lot of unpleasant side effects, you know, like fatigue, nausea, insomnia, gastrointestinal upset, skin problems, and weight management issues. Plus they're addictive because they symptomatically mask the cause of the problem rather than addressing it at the root. And what people often find is when they stop taking the SSRI, they end up feeling just as bad, if not worse, than they did before they were even taking it. So it's more of a psychological band-aid than an actual solution. Now in the past, I have experienced depression that spanned a number of years, and like a lot of people, I tried to self-medicate by using drugs and alcohol, obviously to no avail, really just compounding the problem. I've also taken magic mushrooms before, and I can testify to the findings of this study from a very personal standpoint. Now, I think that dosage is an all-important factor to consider, but at the appropriate dosage in the right settings, I think that psilocybin can work directly on enhancing our perceptive faculties so that we can begin to see and understand things from a much bigger picture vantage point. Perspective becomes a more global one, and it becomes pretty much effortless to genuinely feel that we are a part of a much larger network of interconnected and interdependent life. It can be like a moment of epic realization, but at the same time, completely normal, because perhaps for the first time, we're seeing the world with more clarity, more equality, and from a place of equanimity. And I think this is a really key point, because clinical depression does have a kind of selfish quality to it. Now, I'm not saying that all depressed people are super self-centered and they couldn't give a shit about anybody else, but by its very nature, depression is quite self-oriented, you know? We end up being overly concerned with our own feelings, and because of that, it becomes very easy to become disconnected from other people and from the world around us. So it can develop into a very myopic way of seeing and feeling the world around us, and as a result we can become very lonely and isolated. For me, as my perspective expanded exponentially, I felt like the root of my depressive state began to wither in the face of the awe and wonder that I was experiencing at just beholding the world around me. I could viscerally feel that I was a part of this world and not separate from it. But, you know, this wasn't some phony, new age, delusional experience brought about by synthetic drugs. It was an authentic and genuine experience and interaction with nature, brought about by ingesting something from nature. So, although the experience itself only really lasted about 6 hours, the residual effects of that lasted a very long time. You know, I could really feel the benefits of this for the months and really years that followed. Unlike other pharmaceutical antidepressants, the ingestion of psilocybin mushrooms was without side effects, and it's very much self-regulating because I really felt the need to digest the whole experience over the course of time. So the inclination to take them again was not really a prospect that interested me for quite a long time afterwards. Now obviously these can be taken mindlessly, people can treat them like party drugs, or perhaps people that are going through psychotic episodes shouldn't take these, but when they're approached as something sacred and they're treated like a medicine, they can be of immense benefit to us, and they can be really transformational at a really core level. Now, it took years for the study that I mentioned to be granted the permits necessary to proceed, but it did eventually happen, and hopefully there's going to be a lot more research like this conducted so that we can start infusing scientific medical progress with the organic wisdom of nature. And through doing that, we can start eradicating this irrational fear and ignorance that surrounds subjects like this. And then hopefully, so many people are going to be able to benefit from that.